Hey, Shubham.
Hey Max, how are you?
Oh, um, had a stressful weekend. I started hacking a library in Haskell or building a library in Haskell, and I couldn't stop. It's I don't know. It was till 5 minutes before bedtime, highly concentrated, working on my PC, and nothing could distract me and solving issues. And now it's the day after the relaxing weekend, and I feel like already end of week. But I had a
Yeah,
lot of fun.
great.
Hey, Lucas.
Morning.
Hi, good morning.
How are you?
Hey.
Hi, fine.
There was no testing meeting today, right? I haven't missed anything.
Yeah, we
No.
have to cancel that. Yeah.
Mhm.
I just come back from vacation, so I don't have any updates. Sorry for that. Yeah. But yeah, anyway, if you have any query, drop us and Slack offline message, and we can reply.
Mhm.
I'll bring up a testing issue in the security update today.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
Let's wait a little bit for everyone to join.
Hello, everyone.
Hey. Still people jumping in, so let's wait maybe for a few more seconds. think we might start to be complete. Okay. Let me start jumping into the meeting agenda, and I would like to move another agenda item before the weekly check-ins. And that would be the update from the governing board meeting. And hey, nice to see you here, Mark. Please interrupt me if I'm saying anything wrong, or if I might be wrong, or might be not clear on some points. But hey,
Yeah, no worries.
hey. So the update from the governing board was there was a decision to migrate the project to a fully community project, to a community enabled project, to a project where the community itself lifts the heavy weights and is responsible for a project. And so the idea is that the project will be so that for 23 there will be less funds from LF side, or from the LF side, and that the funds that are there are steered towards enabling the community members within the project to be actionable, to help to maintain the project, help to continue the project, help to work on the project. But the expectation is that the non-organic side of development will go down to roughly zero, or will be reduced a lot, and that the organic or the community side of development needs to take over, and that the funding that is still there for 22, and that the funding that is there for 23 is steered towards that goal, towards that community or community enabled project. So that's the headline, and I would like to go into some details, into some proposal, into some description how that how we can enable us as a community to do that. But before that, I would ask for questions. Are there already questions? Are there already comments? Otherwise, I would like to go into details. I don't see any mute icon blinking. So,
Hi, this is Lucas. I do have one question. Is the budget absolute zero, or just quite low?
it's very close to zero.
The budget, we're using what we have left this year to move to next year, but we're basically going to exhaust everything and through the end of next year, and hopefully if there's anything left for 2024, then we'll use it there. But basically we're using all of the funds, which is not a lot, to put this project into this community-based mode.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, and if it's not clear, the other point out of this is that the board itself is no longer going to be present, right? So the board of directors, the board that was governing this project, is being dismantled. So this project will be community-led through the TSC calls this call.
And there won't be members the project either. It's gonna be strictly community based.
Yeah, that wasn't clear from my explanation, right?
Yeah, what does it mean in practice, community-based project? It will be led by community.
I guess free Slack will be there for the communication. GitHub, like project will be there on the GitHub, and communication and development can happen. People who have already been contributing can review the PRs and merge the PRs and raise new PRs, I guess. Max, you can add more.
Yeah, that's right. There will be some governance structure, some community leadership that will emerge from the current community leadership, and there will be code owners probably, but the whole governing structure will be shrunk and will be streamlined. But I think there's not yet a final proposal for that. Kendall, maybe you have an idea of how that will look?
Yeah, so basically it comes down to what the community wants to do. There could still be a TSC, there still needs to be some sort of governance to keep things rolling. And there should be co-owners as well. So a lot of the actual technical governance will not change too much unless the community wants to change it a lot. But the biggest thing is, the whole there's no more funding from members. There won't be the governing board and that kind of thing. But so it wouldn't be changing, I guess, too terribly much on the, it really is just, we're leaning on the community to have this project be continued.
Yeah, so I guess the companies who are using the project for the clients, or some people who are actually testing it in their labs, they can continue to grow the project. And if someone have their self-interest, they can come along.
Thank you. I think, Max, you answered the question in the sense that that visibility is not there, right? Who is going to be, who is not going to be, right? That what I'm worried about is the currently funded organization, will they continue to transition them into a community mode, or will they vanish off, right? And that's a big concern of something that I have.
I think there is some non-organic development work right now done, like TNG. TNG is purely here based on funding. We do not have a business model around Magma, so the expectation is that our engagement will also reduce once the funding runs out, except for, I don't know what will happen, but that's the expected future, and that's probably true for some of the other non-organic contributors that are not did not emerge from the community and are not driven by the community, and or are not engaged as organic community growth. So the overall number of contributors will probably go down, and that's why we have created a proposal, a plan that we want to share how to bring the project to a state where this is still actionable.
Yeah, it would be good to get that visibility, Kendall and team, right? Today, the way that I look at it, based on the limited knowledge I have, most of the organizations are funded today have similar business models like Max mentioned for TNG. So if everybody vanishes off once the funding is not available, this is going to die. So it would be appreciated some clarity and visibility is brought in front of all of us who depend on Magma on some of the business cases, right? Because if everyone vanishes off and still those work has to be done, and those are not the primary work that anyway. So I think you guys get the point, right? The clarity piece, bring it as soon as possible would be appreciated.
I think there was the community call a few months ago where you also were present. And I think in that call, several members of the community explained their position, and you should be able to look up in that call the individual commitments for.
Yeah. Okay. All right. It's clear. Thanks.
Okay.
Okay.
But
Max, I have a question.
Yeah.
So right now, a lot of things like our infra site, let's say our Artifactory or our Firebase account, all these things are funded by LF.
Mhm.
Will those things continue, or do we have to move to freeware, something kind of alternatives?
I think a lot of the services that are right now paid will be shut down. But there are some exceptions that are right now paid, like the Artifactory. The old Artifactory is right now a paid service, but for that, there's the migration to the Cloud Artifactory. The Cloud Artifactory will continue to exist. So there will be an Artifactory. And if we succeed in migrating everything to the Cloud Artifactory, that's mitigated. Also, GitHub in its current form will continue. AWS is one of the things that needs funding, that needs someone to step up. Otherwise, all AWS services will be shut down. Firebase is a paid service, but maybe we can. It's cheap enough to find funding for another year or something like that. But the expected plan is to, by default, switch paid services off unless a community member steps up to mitigate that.
So the Cloud Artifactory is free.
Cloud Artifactory is free in that form for LF. Yeah, I don't know if it's generally free, but in that setup to which we switch, it will be free for us.
Yeah, LF has a deal with that that company to make it where we have free if it's used for open source projects. So yeah, that's not a worry. That won't go away.
And that includes like our Confluence, that is also free. We can use that.
I will actually need to check on that because that is a service through LFIT. I'll double check and report back. I believe that is something that will be able to continue, but I will just need to confirm.
The Confluence, if you scroll down, it has a free community license, but it costs maintenance, it costs work to maintain. I would understand if it's something that might be dropped, but then we would switch to GitHub Wiki or a free alternative.
Yeah, I was about to say, if we need to switch to GitHub Wiki, I think that's fine too.
Yeah,
but I'll report back.
Yeah, and if let's say we are continuing to use the Artifactory, who will maintain it?
That
would be the community, right?
The community will be enabled to communicate and integrate with the Artifactory via the CI. The CI has the keys to publish artifacts in the Artifactory.
And right now our GitHub plan is paid. I think we have very expensive plan, and that will be moved towards free.
No, the GitHub as is will continue. That's also a deal that LF has with Microsoft.
Oh, that's great. So that means we can use GitHub Actions, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's awesome.
So in discussing each of these kind of work items or each of these transitions, like the change to the Artifactory, there are some kind of sort of shutdown or transitional work items. And I wonder about project management for making this transition so that the project can arrive at the point where it's entirely community run without just sort of waking up one day and being like, oh, we're just not going to pay for this or that anymore.
That's the plan, Lucas. And if you'll hear Max go through the details of the proposal they've put together, I think this is the opportunity for the community to voice any concerns with the plan. And if there's anything that we feel is a problem, being shut down too quickly or requires a discussion on, how do we keep this service going? This is where we want to have those discussions.
Yeah. So Max and also Mark, Max basically said that there is no business model to continue if there is no funding. To me, it's waste of time to even review this proposal because he's going to go away. We should stop the funding and try to use the funding in a place where people have interest to build the business. This is my, sorry, being very candid, but straight answer. It's waste of time.
Yeah, I just maybe agreed on, I understand your point. I think the only difference I would state here is the goal of this exercise is to get the project to a state where the community can keep going, right? So I'm hoping that there's alignment with that goal and the goal of the companies in this consortium looking to monetize a solution. So do keep that in mind when we review this proposal. We want to make sure that everyone that's in this community can continue to work and that we don't create something that's going to create a blockage or a complete stop.
Yeah. I completely agree, right? It's a good point, but I would invest on someone who is interested to continue and take this Magma project and do the same work rather than a company who's going to stop serving after completing this task. It doesn't make any sense to me. I'm sorry, but this is my plain statement.
Yeah, I think that's a fair statement.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think we are right now able to do that migration. We have the tools in hand, and it's a big task that we think we can do, and that's why we propose to do it, or why we have this proposal created, and we can discuss it. We can also discuss how what other ways are there to reach that state. But yeah, I understand your point, and it's true. It's we can bring the project to this, or we can support the transition towards this community based state. But yes, it's
yeah, I don't want to say anything. I think I made my point, right? But let's go through this and figure out if this can be done by someone else who has a US plan to live the life with Magma, right? That's how I see it. I don't know how others see it. That's my honest opinion. And also visibility, Max, like your organization, who else is involved and who is not going to continue after the funding is also very critical for us, because our life depends on this. If I talk from Wavelab's point of view, this year we have invested 8 resources continuously starting to till now, right? It's a scary thing to be in the situation where we are in right now. Visibility will be really appreciated. Thank you. Yeah.
From that call, it's Iris, Fritz, Sebastian, and me, who's from TNG. But I can make it visible to you who is from TNG. That's fine. Okay. Maybe we can do that after the call, or maybe tomorrow. I think it's already late for you. Okay. Going through this document, I will share the Google Doc link afterwards. So the first is the introduction, that the goal is to, or the goal of this North Star is to transition to a easier to maintain project that has a less involved, less complex CI that has less diversity in all the ways it accomplishes the same things, and that is less maintenance heavy. And to reach that expected state, we propose the following 6 steps or 6 items. We think we should get rid of hard to maintain structures and code paths. Code paths is a very generic term. I will go into detail for every of these items, just mentioning the headlines right now. We are planning to turn off all paid services and fix and mitigate the affected components. We want to reduce to one way of deployment. That might be the most controversial point, but having Debian installation and having Dockerized access gateway in parallel is creates a lot of work that is necessary, and we think it's potentially too much. Right now, the dependency tree of Magma is rather large, rather fragile, and in parts exotic and patched, and that is something that we saw in the last half year that caused a lot of work, and that also caused old releases to break, and the goal is to strengthen that. And we want to, within all of that, keep up with the external regressions that appear over that migration, and to finish or to create a new thing that is the migrated Magma. It would be good to have a technical 1.9 release, since it might not change a lot feature-wise, but it goes through a lot of breaking changes in the code base just to get rid of all the complexity that is in there. And additionally, there are some community enablers listed in the end of the document that are not essential or not required. And with all of these changes, the code base is expected to be way less complex, way more robust, and way less dependent on external services, and that it is also able to build from source. Right now, the build process involves backwards loops with Artifactory and pre-built binaries to be present, and the goal is to get all of that streamlined, all of that automated, well documented, and simplified as much as possible, so that the project does not is not blocked by all of the work created by the complexity, and so that the project also is possible to be maintained. Yeah. So the details, I might not go into all of the text here. You can read it afterwards. But just to go through, the hard to maintain structures that we point out here is the VM that is used by Vagrant for deployment, for development, for CI, is very complex and involved, and very it's fragile. It's and there are a lot of voices that want to have that replaced. I think there are some that already said they have replacement for that, but not yet contributed back. I think Connect 5G was one of the parties that could have that already fixed. Maybe they contribute that back, then that would already be solved. But it's that cost a lot of work to keep it up and running, and having that automated and streamlined would get rid of that work if there's a simpler, easier development and CI environment. And also the usage of Artifactory right now, having that in the feedback loop, having Python dependency packages built on the fly is fragile and means that the project will have issues if the Artifactory is not up to speed or is not maintained perfectly. And getting rid of that dependency means that the project is more or less fragile. Yeah. And there are some experimental and deprecated code parts that are, for example, included in linting checks and that are generating work which is not necessary and which would be good to reduce. Then the big thing, the turn off of paid services and mitigate for effects. The expectation is that CI as is will in large parts no longer be as functional as it is right now. That is partially based on the HashiCloud mounted VM. That is based on external services like AWS, which is used for Bazel caching and for the ARM build. And that also includes Firebase, although that is something that we might be able to discuss. But the expectation is that with the if we shut down the paid services, the CI will have way less coverage, will be mostly red. And that needs to be mitigated, that needs to be fixed. And there are some jobs which might need to be restructured so that they fit in the new model and that they are also less complex and that they are easier to maintain. And the second thing is we have an Artifactory that will continue to exist, but the migration to that is not yet done. There's a lot to fix. There is a lot of fallout expected of that migration. The last Artifactory migration took us 2 or 3 months to recover. And it is expected that this is might also cause some problems. And the goal here is to mitigate these problems and to get rid of the entanglement with Artifactory, especially by also switching to depending on packages which are commonly distributed in the operating system instead of relying on hosting them ourselves or redistributing them ourselves. So entangling the complexity and the circular dependencies and chaos. Another point where we see that we can make it easier for the community to sustain and maintain the project is if we are able to switch to a single way of deployment. If we can decide to have one way of deployment that could either be Debian packages or that could be the Dockerized Access Gateway. If we could decide, that would mean that we have just one path to test and not, I think right now we test 3 or more paths of deployment with, Shubham?
Yeah, so I have a question regarding ARM. So if, let's say, community is continuing and they don't have ARM systems, will ARM community or ARM, the company, will be there for like giving a hand with the releases?
Not so much on the software side, but if there's a need for equipment or support, we're definitely interested, and we are still very much interested in this project.
Yeah, for let's say access gateway new functionalities are there and we want to test it on ARM hardware and we don't have AWS resources. Can ARM test it or at least give us resources for testing it out?
Yeah, I'd love to explore any needs there. If there's a need, I would step up and do whatever I can to get you access to hardware or to get you a gateway.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Yeah. Okay, but yeah, ARM is also interesting since I think most of the ARM deployments right now rely on the Dockerized access gateway, but the on the same at the same time the Dockerized access gateway is not fully functional and fully battle tested and has a lot of shortcomings. So it's also not an option to have it as the only deployment right now. So that's complicated to resolve here. I think just to mention it, Bazel might be a solution here since it can create so much overlap between both build methods so that they are basically the same up to generating different artifacts, which might enable the community to maintain both. And additionally, for example, Wavelabs brought up that the documentation for some of the ways how to deploy Magma is not up to speed, especially for the Federation Gateway. And the goal is to fix that and to dump all the knowledge that is there into documentation and into mitigation for how to deploy Federation Gateway, how to build Federation Gateway, and how it is to be integrated and maybe included in the release testing process. Yeah, Shubham?
So the Magma core website that we have that is deployed on WordPress, which is maintained by LF, that will continue. We will have that.
The documentation right now or will soon be hosted via GitHub pages, so that is basically for free. But
documentation right now, documentation is still hosted via GitHub pages, that is on Dockersaurus. But yeah, the lot of people are coming from that main website to our documentation page. So we need both. So if LF WordPress cannot be maintained, then we would like to migrate it to the normal GitHub pages that we had previously before we move into the WordPress.
I'm not sure what the statement on the homepage is, whether we continue to have it. I could imagine that it's that we will continue to have the homepage, but that's something Kendall needs to answer. Okay.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah. Then the next big item that I had above was the dependency tree. So in the recent months, we had several issues where dependencies were no longer available in Ubuntu, or where dependencies were updated in Ubuntu and the pinning for the packages was not good enough. And to make that worse, dependencies are maintained in a lot of places, and partially dependencies are built via scripts from source in the third-party build folder. And that results in a rather large and fragile dependency tree which breaks a lot and which causes a lot of work to be invested, and it is highly suggested to reduce that, to streamline that, to reduce the number of ways how dependencies are managed right now, and that comes together with the reduced to a single way of deployment, reduced to a single way of managing dependencies, streamline the dependencies, make the pinning explicit where needed, and strengthen it so that it does not need as much care as it does right now. That is the under the simplify and reduce fragility of the dependency tree. And yeah, the keeping up with external regression, that's nothing special. Regarding creation of the technical release, since these breaking changes build somehow similar to 1.8 Magma, but it's moved on a lot, and it changed how it needs to be deployed, and it also changed how it is built. This should be minted into a release, just a technical release that is just based on the CI testing, on the testing that the community will have also in the future. And based on that, it should that release should be created. I think a good plan or a good point for that would be Q1 to Q2 in 2023, and that would then finalize the this mitigation or this migration, and that would then be the point where the community can just continue. And on the last thing, it's an old idea that was pushed a lot 1.5 years ago by Meta, is adding open tracing and Jaeger to Access Gateway and Orchestrator, just to make explicit what is happening in Magma. That's a long shot. That's a potential thing that might make it easier to understand what's happening, that also enables the community, but that's really optional, and I might should have dropped it. I think it's more of a interesting idea that is potentially helpful. But that is the rundown of the North Star, how community-based Magma project could look like, how we could go move towards that vision. And now I'm interested in feedback.
I agree. I think it'd be good to get feedback from those that are using Magma in the community to weigh in on these tasks.
Max, a quick question for you. I mean, who is asking these changes?
Who's asking what?
Who is asking for these changes? What is driving these changes to be implemented that is in the proposal?
I guess it's Meta. This is Rafael speaking from OAI. Meta is totally, I think, disengaging from the Magma project and stopping the funding to LSF on that project. and I guess LSS doesn't have the fund to keep it the way it is right now. So for me, it's clear that it's the way this project was funded mainly by its author, its original author, and that's it. As from my point of view, I think the OAI team, at least in terms of CI point of view that we were engaged currently, will help on transitioning with the point that you guys talked about, Max. And I don't know after that. I mean, I had a discussion with the OAI operating manager on Thursday night after we discussed Max. And he didn't know much more than you just explained me and what you just explained. So I still don't have a clear, at least official positions for the OAI involvement in Magma for the next, I would say next year. For the moment, I cannot give more details.
So maybe I didn't ask the question right. I mean, there should be some request coming from the end customer who's adopting Magma, right? To see, as an example, Wavelabs, we take the Magma right now and we build it, and we have no issues, right? Without all these changes that you're proposing, right? That's why I'm asking, like, from where is this request coming? Is it coming, you know, from experiences that you guys have, or is it really coming from the requirement outside in?
And that is coming from the experience we had last year. We have roughly 10 people working on Magma, and most of them are involved with mitigating dependency issues, mitigating CI issues, mitigating Artifactory switch over.
Max, I don't think that's a question that I think is who approves this plan, in fact, kind of like that, or propose that plan. Is that Team ENG or is from the strategic board? I think that's the question that
I mean, see,
exactly.
Max kind of mentioned that he requires funding to do this, right? And we know the funding is limited. And if there is no real requirement from the people who are building Magma and selling to the end customers, or at least prospects that we wanted to turn into end customers, at least from Wavelabs' point of view, all these additional things, it might help as a developer community, but from the outside and customer point of view, right? I don't see the added value. I mean, if this whole requirement is put together, taking an input from, if you tell me, Max, okay, I spoke to Wavelabs, okay, I spoke to Connect 5G, okay, I spoke to Freedom 5. I don't think Freedom 5 is there anymore. They moved to some other core network. Who's actually taking this product and going to the customer, and I validated with them, and these are all the requirements, then this proposal is is okay to be heard, right? I was trying to understand from where it came for this proposal. Who are the vendors that you spoke to come up with the proposal?
That proposal was discussed with the governing board, and but it's not driven by vendor requirements. It's driven by how to mitigate that the all this non-organic support falls away. How to mitigate that there are not 10 people fixing CI and keeping the dependency tree alive, keeping the VMs alive. And that is the proposal of how to reach a state where that is not necessary, where the community is hopefully able to keep up with the amount of work that is arising, with the amount of issues that appear by removing them.
Got it. I was trying to understand, when you refer community, who's that community?
So I think, Kader, what I think is the objective is from my point of view, is that trying to make not the project die. That's pretty much it.
So I don't think CI/CD, fixing CI/CD is going to allow Magma project to die, right? What is going to die is if the community, so-called Max is saying, who's taking Magma and making their living, right? They having something, giving them something, what it is required for them will keep the project alive, not fixing CI/CD defects, right? So anyways, I'll just stop here with my two summary, right? So number one, like I said before,
I think you have for me, you have a point. I mean, for me, you have a point. You certainly gonna be the last.
Yeah. Anyways, my job is to put it because.
Yeah, no, yeah,
put it on the table and I let you all community to decide, right? My point is pretty clear. I don't think we need to depend on any vendor and continue the funding if we know that they're going to go away. And the second point is we need to talk to people who wants to make their living of Magma and get the input before even we prepare these kind of proposals and present it in the common forum. These are my 2 points. I'll stop here. Nothing more to say from my end.
Any other comments? Anyone?
Speaking for myself, from a security point of view, I think I should put all of my resources into assisting with the kind of transitional items. Would you agree? What are thoughts from the TSC?
My thoughts are, yes, that sounds good. Supporting the transition is probably helpful. We should also discuss how the security infrastructure could look in the future. Yeah.
I will come up with some kind of, I don't know, proposal on what it should transition to.
Okay.
Hi, Max.
Yeah.
I am from Redis's team. So Redis's team has been working with Meta from the past 4 years, where we are mostly working on adding new features and testing it. So from this proposal, I see that there is absolutely no scope for that. So I would like to know what is the plan for Redis, whether we continue to work with this, or what is the plan?
I don't have a full detailed plan what the engagement with Meta is looking like in the future. I think I saw Shruti, but she's no longer here. Let me check that with Shruti, and but my assumption is that at least from LF side, everything goes to 0, and but I don't know if Meta has different plans here. Mark, you unmuted.
Well, I didn't quite understand the question. I was just wondering if you can reiterate the question.
Yeah, so the Redis team mostly contributes on adding new features to Magma, mostly on the 4G side. So I just wanted to know what is the plan in 2023 for Redis. So since I don't see any development activity being planned, and so just wanted to know what is the engagement with Redis, what is it going to look like?
Okay, we might have to get back to you on that point. I don't know the details of how Radisys was funded. I assume you were funded for this work. It was not community-led, was it?
Right.
Okay, yeah, I'm not sure what that was
Hi,
managed? I can't remember.
Mark, if I may. Marks, if I may.
Yeah, absolutely.
Prithvi, I am doing coordination inside Meta on Magma. So if you could reach out to me and I will coordinate with you. I work with Shruti on this.
Okay, sure. Yeah,
Thanks.
thank you.
Mark, everybody is asking you, so I'm also have one question to ask you. Because we are transitioning into community-based moving forward, is it possible to get a little bit of clarity, Mark, like who are all the existing organizations? It's not about how much they funded. What I'm asking is, who are all the organizations are funded today? What is their responsibility after the funding stops? Are they going to continue or not? This is a very important thing that we have to know as a community, because a lot at stake, right? At least from Wavelab's point of view, we have put a lot of things at stake, and suddenly everyone disappears. It's you understand what I mean. I'll pause here, but please, if we could get some visibility onto that, will really help.
Yeah, it seems like a proper next step is to reevaluate who is part of the community and ensure that they see the proposal from TNG, right? This framework that Max has pulled together, and make sure that it aligns with what the community needs. I don't know if this is something Kendall or the LF can help with. You know, it'd be great to get a consensus on, you know, what work is, who depends on what, right, for their future in Magma today, and maybe that helps us determine the next path here.
Yeah, Mark, I'm happy to meet with you and we can work on that.
I think we're going to meet at LF one summit, right? If you're there tomorrow, we can chat in person.
Yes, I'm actually already here, so let's chat when you arrive.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, that'll help, because I think that's a valid question. You know, yeah, it's a valid question for sure.
Thanks, Mark. You know, unfortunately, I couldn't travel because of the, some emergency. Pull me in if there is a requirement to discuss. Mark, happy to chat this week when you guys are in Seattle.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. I think we should skip the weekly check-in for today. We are also nearly at the top of the hour, and I will continue to be available via Slack. Please ping me if you have any questions, and I'm still interested in hearing feedback and still interested in understanding what the community thinks about that proposal. I added the link to the Google Doc to the meeting notes of today.
You also put that in the Slack channel of the governance TSC, the public one, not the private one.
I could also use that Slack channel, yes.
Yeah.
And
yeah, it'd be great to share that around. It'd be really good to share that around, Max.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and one more question, like if we will be having these Zoom meetings and we will manage the calendar.
Yeah, how long, Max, would you continue this meeting, running this meeting?
You mean today or in the
like till the end of the year, or are you committed till the end of the year?
I'm committed till we are done with the migration. If we get that, if we agree on the plan to do this migration, I'm committed till I think Q1, Q2 next year, and I will I'm happy to run these meetings, but I'm the how to continue TSC is a independent topic that did not yet come up, and but yeah, I assume it will just continue as is for now, and I'm committed to support that.
Yeah, my understanding is that it continues. It's just a question of who leads it, and if you're there for a little while, that's good. It'll give us time to figure that out.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I think we should already start thinking, Mark, for the new TSC, because we need to identify the community, whatever the Max is saying, who will continue to support to be in the TSC. I mean, it has to happen as soon as possible.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay.
So what happens to the current ongoing activities like CPP migration, other things?
I will connect you with some, and we can chat about that regarding CPP migration. Any other questions? Otherwise, I think we are done, and people are already dropping into other meetings.
Thank you, Max.
Yep. Thanks, Max. Thanks, everyone.
Bye, Max. Thanks very much. Feels like you were in the hot seat this trip, this this session, but you did really well.
Max, it's just a community discussion, right? Just trying to chat what is good for the community long. Thanks a lot for this proposal. Yeah.
Yeah, and please give feedback. You can comment on the Google Doc.
Yep. Feedback is already there. I gave you my 2 points, right? So from my end, I'm pretty clear.
Okay.
No comments. Yeah. Thank you.
Hey.
Thank you very much.
Nice day.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.